3 years ago, I was quoted €30,000 for KNX smart home. Needless to say, I politely declined. And now 3 years later, I'm retrofitting smart home features using Shelly devices. But what exactly are KNX and Shelly? To get to that, let me firstly tell you that smart home devices can, for example, control your thermostats, blinds or lights with a tap on your smartphone. But it is not only about clicking a button and seeing something happen. It is about creating automations that are truly useful, like lowering all blinds when it is night out. And KNX and Shelly are basically two big players when it comes to offering such systems. So in this video, I'll show you how normal wiring looks like, how KNX and Shelly make it all smart, and which system makes more sense overall. And to test that in the real world, I'll also upgrade my friend's house with Shelly devices. Because he has not only been renovating his house for 2 years now, but also because he has helped me with this channel since the very beginning. There is a lot to get to, so let's not waste any more time and let's get started! This video is sponsored by Shelly, who also provided the components for my friend's house free of charge. If you want to know more about the renovation or buy Shelly products with my exclusive discount, then click the link below. And I know what you're thinking, if they're sponsoring this video, then they will of course win this comparison. Well, first off, let me tell you that I paid full price for all the Shelly devices in my home. And no, they are not perfect and not always the best solution. But more about that later. Now let's start with a classic, the old school on-off light circuit. Probably one of the most basic electrical wiring setups you can make, consisting of a switch and a light source. And believe it or not, but you have this setup in your wall just like me. And for decades this was good enough. But times have changed, and nowadays you basically want to control this switch with your smartphone. So let's firstly try KNX, for which I got these 4 components here that are required to make the same light circuit as before. And in case you're wondering, KNX is a smart home standard that is very popular in Europe, but also present in other countries like the USA. But anyway, for our circuit we got a KNX bus power supply, a switching actuator that comes with 2 relays, a push button and a USB programming interface. So let's wire them up, which is a bit more complicated than before, because before we basically only had to put a switch in series with a light. This time we also have to complete this series connection, but with the light and 1 relay channel. But then we also got the low voltage data signal side, for which I will be using this standard KNX bus wire. And while it comes with 4 conductors, we only need 2 here, red and black. These are used to basically daisy chain all the components together, with the red wire going into the red connector and the black wire going into the black connector. It is pretty straightforward. Now these 2 wires basically build up our bus system, in which every component has an address and they can talk to one another. But anyway, at this point my wiring was complete. But as expected, after powering everything up, nothing happened when I pushed the button. We of course forgot to program the devices, and to do that we need the official software from KNX, which is not free, and for testing I got myself the light version for €240 that supports a maximum of 20 components per project. And after starting the software, I was quickly confused and had no idea how to do this. But thanks to some YouTube guides, I found out that it is actually not that hard. So in a nutshell, you simply create a fitting room, then search for exact components and import them, then you create a group like light switching and simply drop the button and relay in there, before finally uploading everything to the components. And just like that, the circuit works just fine. And I know, it is not smartphone compatible yet, because for that you would need another component that can connect to your router. And speaking of other components, it is kind of crazy how many other are KNX compatible. I feel like there's a component for every task imaginable. But as you might also already have noticed, this KNX stuff is definitely not cheap. In fact, my light setup here cost me a total of 370 euro, not including the 240 euro for the software. And let's not forget that a simple series connection in your wall is no longer enough. Every switchable mains voltage appliance needs a mains voltage cable going all the way into the distribution box, and all KNX devices need to be connected to the data bus. And that definitely increases not only the cost for labor, but also for the extra wire. And that brings us to Shelly, who I actually discovered when I realized that in order to close or open my blinds, I have to keep pushing the button for it. Not sure if this was an evil joke from my electrician, but in order to solve this problem, I simply got myself this Shelly 2PM. On it you can already see that we got 2 switch inputs and 2 outputs, to, for example, control a motor. So all you have to do is wire up mains power, the inputs and outputs, and you're done. And best of all, these things pretty much always fit behind the switch. At this point you can use the Shelly app to add your device and configure it, so that the blinds go up and down with one single push instead of holding the switch. Lovely! And yes, I hear some of you screaming right now, because Shelly devices use Wi-Fi or another wireless connection with a dedicated app, instead of a wired bus like KNX that has its program stored on the devices. So if your internet goes down or the Shelly servers turn off, then your Shelly devices will become useless, right? Well, actually no, because you can also communicate with them locally, which I do with my Raspberry Pi that has Home Assistant running on it. Adding them is super simple, and you can of course easily integrate them in your dashboard or create automations with them. But getting back to my light switch example here, that I now want to make smart with Shelly, and all I need for that is any variation of such a Shelly 1, that comes with 1 input, 1 output and 1 switch input. Wiring this all up happens at the switch location, which is also explained in the manual, meaning for retrofitting this is super quick and easy. And in just a matter of minutes I got it all integrated into the software, which is by the way free. So I basically got the same end result as with KNX for a fraction of the costs. But to be fair, I would recommend having a server with Home Assistant running, which adds a bit of cost. And for those who say that a wired connection is always better, there are also the Shelly Pro devices, like this one right here. And that finally brings us to my friend's house upgrade. We installed a bunch of these for testing in his basement. And I'm saying only for testing because he's not really ready yet to complete the electrical work. There sadly have been a bunch of delays and problems that slowed down his renovation process. But anyway, as you can see, these Pro devices are made to be put into a distribution box and then wired up not only with mains voltage, but also an Ethernet cable for data communication. It is kind of similar to KNX, meaning you need a lot more wires going to the main distribution box, which was not a problem for my friend though, because he is a master electrician and thus had the need to be able to access every component with wires. So what the Pro devices will do is dim a warm white LED strip, which he will put above his main lights later on. He will be able to control every blind in his house, and he will control each light individually. And while we were at it, we also already installed some other stuff, like normal Shelly 1 behind every outlet to make them controllable. Or Shelly wall displays that will act like thermostats in every room. Or the big wall display XL that will not only act as a thermostat, but also a Home Assistant dashboard. or the flood sensor that will let him know when his heating system condensed water overflows. And we actually got a couple more things to integrate later on, like motion sensors, a weather station, a big water valve, and a power measuring system that will later work together with his solar panels to let him know what he is drawing or feeding into the grid. Yeah, the selection of Shelly devices is getting bigger and bigger, but of course it is not close to the KNX selection yet. And that brings us to the verdict of this video, in which I have to say that Shelly is perfect for retrofitting smart home features while being reasonably priced. I mean, I did the calculations, and to make my home smart, I will have to spend a lot less than the original KNX quote I got. But then again, Shelly is not perfect, and I particularly don't like these screw connectors, and instead would prefer something spring-loaded. And I can also see the appeal of KNX, especially for bigger buildings or industrial purposes, because of its rugged bus and software that makes it easy to manage tons of devices while offering diagnostics. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something new. If so, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Stay creative, and I will see you next time!